Welcome to Module 1 of IT Project Management. We will start this module by looking at the official definitions of the terms project and project management. Then, we will take a look at why organizations need well-managed projects and what the key criteria are for a project to qualify as being managed well. Project failure happens all too often. Look at this graph published by the standards body for project management, the Project Management Institute, or PMI, in 2021. 27% of IT projects didn't meet their goals, and more than a third went over budget or gave work away for free. That is, they cost the business more than planned. Close to half of all projects were behind schedule and delivered late. And over a third of all projects failed early and were canceled with lost budget, and 12% were completed and turned out to be a waste of time and resources. PMI also found the drivers of failure and success. The first one is lack of flexibility. The worst organizations insist on always doing business as usual and following rigid old processes, while successful organizations have just as much structure, form, and governance in place to get the metrics they need for successful delivery. But they remain flexible when it comes to how projects are being delivered. They also innovate constantly and explore how new tools and data analytics can help drive great outcomes. Lastly, failing organizations describe people as resources, that is, as productivity centers they can push around, when successful organizations focus on people as people and recognize that everyone brings something special to the table and does so in their own individual ways. Let's take a quick look at the history of project management. Formal project management started in the 1950s and 1960s with high-risk, high-visibility programs that simply could not fail. For example, the Apollo space program. As computers became mainstays in American businesses and many employees became knowledge workers, the demand for a secure and available IT increased, and keeping pace with technological developments became critical. In today's global economy, which emphasizes cloud-based communication tools along with BYOD, in an age where cyber attacks are rampant, IT security and reliability are key to any kind of business operations. The needs in this sector have skyrocketed. This is where an organized approach to managing IT projects becomes so important. This approach must define not just the goal of the project, but its other parameters as well, especially the funding and the time it will take to execute the project successfully. There's this one sentence from the PMBOK, or the Project Management Body of Knowledge, that all serious project managers have memorized and can recite in their sleep. A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So let's break this down. A project delivers a result, often a product or service or a series of deliverables. It is temporary, so it has to deliver the project within limited amounts of time and money. It requires the work of people and is unique, so a project of a single nature happens only once. That is the difference between project and operations. Lastly, a project is a vehicle for achieving an organization's strategic plan, either by itself or through inclusion in a portfolio or program. And what is project management? Well, you can see the official definition at the bottom here. It's essentially the herding of all the cats into the same direction in order to make sure a project successfully completes its requirements. And note where it says the effective management of appropriate processes. Those words, effective and appropriate, go back to exactly what we talked about previously. Namely that just enough structure, form, and governance with the ability to flex and pivot is important. You'll want to really memorize these concepts because those essentially are what this course is about. So, now let's talk about why we do projects, specifically IT projects. As you can see on the right side of the screen, the major goal for each project is to add value to an organization. Why? Because the environment changes drastically every day. Customers want different things. The competition may be planning a really cool new product, or law and technology have changed. This means that organizations need to react to those changes, or preferably even foresee them, so that with the help of your IT project, they can shape the market by their rules rather than follow them. How to get to this point is usually laid out in an organizational strategy, which is the big black arrow in this graphic. This organizational strategy determines the more tactical objectives, here shown as a yellow curved arrow on the left, that break the organizational strategy down into smaller goals. Once we know these goals, we can start figuring out the practical steps of turning them into reality. This includes dividing them by functional areas into separate portfolios, and by practical considerations, such as shared resources in terms of people, labs, facilities, or even end users, into programs. Once we are at the program level, we can start identifying specific technical initiatives that will make the strategic and tactical priorities real. And voila, we're at the project level of the organization, here shown as blue boxes. These projects then must fulfill these strategic and tactical priorities, and that produces the value that will drive the organization forward. And this is where the cycle starts over and over again. Because projects have different characteristics than ongoing operations, they pose a brand new set of challenges, which means that project managers navigate between project math and accounting and organizational politics. The biggest challenges project managers solve day to day are staffing. Every project has different personnel needs. The number of people needed and their different skill sets are different for each project. Where do these people come from? How many hours a day or a week can they work on your project if several projects are running simultaneously? Estimating. In order to evaluate potential projects, organizations need accurate estimates of costs and schedules. But how do you forecast a project's cost and schedule when you don't have all the facts, and when your reputation and trustworthiness depends on those numbers? Authority. Organization charts define authority within a firm, but they usually represent the ongoing operations. When projects cross organizational boundaries, it is no longer clear who has authority for many decisions. Every day, project managers engage in organizational politics to ensure their projects make progress. Controls. Normal corporate accounting practices are too slow to keep a project on track. So every day, project managers crunch the numbers for their projects and compare their plan to the actual costs to avoid the risk of going over budget or schedule. And besides managing numbers and project politics, project managers are change agents in the organization. They are more technical than business managers and definitely more business than technical managers. Since they change how a company operates, they often collaborate with operations. But where an operations manager focuses on the seamless execution of existing processes, the project manager's job focuses on innovation of products, processes, and services. Big difference. This can put the project manager in front of all sorts of customers as well, so that sometimes a project manager will support the sales team. This support, lastly, makes constant learning and reading industry news part of the project manager's job. They need enough technical understanding to translate what the engineers do into business language, but they don't do the technical jobs. Project managers are not engineers. So, what are the actual project factors then that project managers manage? Traditionally, successful project managers used to make sure that the scope of a project, which is the thing or the service that we're delivering, got to the customer at the date that we promised and for the amount of money that we promised it would cost. So if we have delivered all the requirements on time and on budget, we should have a great quality project, right? Wrong. You cannot deliver a quality project without making sure the people working on it have all the resources to do their job well. You'll need some way of measuring that quality, which usually happens with various testing cycles and metrics, and of course, you'll always want to prepare for things to go wrong. That's where risk management comes in. These are the major knowledge areas we will explore in this course. Speaking of people, Eric Verza writes that the challenge of managing projects is to lead a disparate group of people to make good decisions over and over as they make something new. Think about this for a moment. As a project manager or a product owner or scrum master, your real challenge is not doing the math or doing the engineering. Remember, a project manager is not a technical lead. Instead, the tasks of a project manager are communicating with team members and stakeholders from project conception through completion, estimating the effort, cost, and time it will take to deliver a project, and evaluating whether the benefits of the project will justify the forecasted costs. Rapidly building cohesive project teams that are highly productive, even though team members have not worked together before. Coordinating the actions of a diverse workforce assembled specifically for a project to achieve the goal for the least possible expense and in a reasonable time frame. Accounting for progress and productivity to provide accurate forecasts of project completion dates and budget amounts. And managing the varying staffing needs that result from continually running multiple projects concurrently, all of which share a common pool of personnel. No wonder that the 4 C's are so important to successful project managers. Those are collaboration, cooperation, coordination, and critical thinking. And those are the skills that we will practice in this course. At this point, you're probably thinking that you will never want a career in project management because it's too much administration and not enough technology. And if you're not into making collaboration, cooperation, coordination, and critical thinking happen, this honestly might not be the career for you. All of these, in fact, culminate in the biggest success factor by which your project will be measured. Can you create value? And that, by the way, is your 5th C. So let's talk about that for a moment. What if you built, as I did at one point as a software engineer, the most beautiful automated network management system for rocket launches? It's pretty, it's colorful, it provides point-and-click functionality, and the people who are paying for it, the project sponsors, they love it. Then you show what you've built to your end users who work for Mr. Moneybags here. And what happens? They hate it. They don't want it. They won't use it. Instead, they'll convince the sponsor to continue using their old terminals. So your beautiful system just disappears in a dusty corner. Assume you have delivered the system on time and on budget and it works great. Have you delivered a successful project outcome? Certainly not. In fact, this actual project cost the sponsor $700 million, and it was a complete waste. To be successful as a project manager, you need to figure out how to deliver the right kind of outcome to your customer's organization. That, and only that, creates value. So, now we know that the success of your project and its final value depends on the user's readiness and enthusiasm to use what you have created, and on your project sponsor's happiness with your ability to deliver the system on time and on budget with great quality. Sometimes your users and your sponsor get along, and at other times they don't. It's tempting to just follow the money when you should really focus on keeping these two important groups of stakeholders happy. Yes, I said stakeholders. The official definition of stakeholders is persons or organizations who are actively involved in the project or whose interests may be positively or negatively affected by the performance or completion of the project. Well, that is definitely true for these two groups. Another thing is true though as well. Along the way, throughout the project lifecycle, there are many other important stakeholders who can influence the perception of your project's value and of your success as a project manager. From your project or scrum team to the help desk employee who has to answer calls when your system breaks, or the IT change control board that has to evaluate your system's impact on the entire company's network, or even your boss's retired golf partner who project managed the first release of the software which you're now upgrading. Take a look at all of these stakeholder groups and you'll realize that each stakeholder group has their own definition of value and their own expectations. The need to manage these makes stakeholder identification and management a continuous process. So, let's summarize what you need in order to create value. You need agreement among the project team, customers, and management on the goals of the project. The importance of having clear goals seems so obvious, it's almost embarrassing to bring it up. Yet, thousands of projects at this very moment do not have clear goals, and the results of this fuzziness can be devastating. That's why it's so important to emphasize time and again the project vision, which needs to set realistic expectations about project outcomes, cost, and schedule for all stakeholders. You also need a plan that shows an overall path and clear responsibilities, and that can be used to measure progress during the project. Since every project is unique, the only way to understand and execute it efficiently is with a plan. Not only does a good plan show who is responsible for what and when, but it also demonstrates what is possible. It contains the details for estimating the people, money, equipment, and materials necessary to get the job done. And because the plan is the basis for measuring progress, it can also act as an early warning system for tasks that are late or over budget. Constant, effective communication among everyone involved in the project is next. People, not plans or software, complete projects. A successful project is a result of people agreeing on goals and then meeting them. From concept through implementation, success depends on the ability to come to an agreement, coordinate action, recognize and solve problems, and react to changes. Also important, a controlled scope. Success is in the eye of the beholder, right? This is why from the very start you will ensure that everyone involved understands exactly what can be accomplished within a given time and budget. This is called managing stakeholder expectations. And it is an important ongoing task throughout the project, especially if changes are introduced. Stakeholders must not only agree on the original scope of the project, but must also understand any changes in scope. Lastly, management support. Project managers rarely have enough formal authority to make all the decisions it takes to complete a project. They rely on people in traditional management roles to supply people and equipment, make policy decisions, and remove organizational obstacles. Even the most enthusiastic, creative, motivational project leaders will stumble if they do not enlist the people with authority to act on their behalf. Once you have these 5 items under control, your projects will almost certainly meet their original goals and create value for the business. In this module, you'll learn the official definitions of the terms project and project management, And you've seen why organizations need well-managed projects and what the key success criteria are for a project to qualify as being well-managed, and for you to become an awesome project manager. Remember the 5 C's, and success will be on your side. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.